Welcome to the SJ Childs Show, where a little bit of knowledge can turn fear into understanding. Enjoy the show.
Introducing safe space staging for kids, creating smiles every step of the way. At Safe Space Staging for Kids, we believe that every child's journey to the dentist should be filled with comfort and confidence. Our mission: to turn dental visits into positive adventures. Imagine a world where dental chairs feel like cozy thrones and waiting rooms are transformed into magical kingdoms. That's the power of our dental staging. We're here to banish dental anxiety and create a safe, soothing environment where kids can be themselves. With vibrant colors, playful decor, and a touch of imagination, we're changing the way children experience dental care. Join us on this journey of smiles, giggles, and happy checkups. Because for us, every tooth deserves a little magic.
Hi, and welcome to the SJ Childs Show. Today, I'm so excited. I'm clapping under my desk. You can't even see. I'm so excited. I have my fidget toy cork, and I'm going to really have this amazing conversation. Today, I have Britini D'Angelo, who some of you may know, some of you may not. We're going to get to know her either way, dive deep, and just have a really great conversation. So good morning and afternoon to you. How are you doing today, Britini?
Oh my gosh, Sarah, I am so thrilled to be here. Just thank you so much for allowing me to come on. This is going to be so much fun. I love how we literally have like the same energy. It's just a beautiful thing. But I'm just so excited to chat and talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, podcasting, I wish I would have known about podcasting 20, 30 years ago. I would have gotten into it first thing right away. But, you know, here we are today, and it brings us together in such a fantastic way. And so let's just start off with an introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here.
Sure. So I got here. I'm just kidding. I was actually
I was born. That's what some people say.
I love that. Okay. So hi, everyone. My name is Britini D'Angelo. I am 25. Next month, I'll be 26. That's weird to say. I'm born and raised in Niagara Falls, New York. So I have been living here all of my life. I have lived nowhere else. I have toured on the road a couple times, but that's a whole other conversation. I am currently a teacher, and I am a building-based substitute for grades 2 through 6. I do have my master's in teaching, but it's just with my traveling schedule, I haven't been able to like settle down and take my full-time classroom. I'm also a dance teacher locally in Niagara Falls. I teach dance at Legacy Dance Studio. My girls are actually going to competition this next up Saturday. So we are getting all the good vibes and making sure they dance and straighten their legs and point their toes.
Yay.
But I'm also a social media influencer and content creator. I had the insane opportunity in the summer of 2021 to go on Big Brother season 23. And with that show, you are given the opportunity of having a platform. What you do with that platform is your choice. And I have used my platform, I would like to think, for a lot of good. We've raised $27,000 for different organizations across. We've done Give Kids the World Village. We've done the Summit Center, which was the school that I went to when I was diagnosed with autism at 22 months old. I was there from ages 2 to 5. We have done the American Heart Association. We've done other things with the American Cancer Society, but fundraising was not. We like fundraise indirectly. We fundraised for the American Heart Association. The American Cancer Society was a different thing. We love both organizations.
Absolutely.
But no, so we've been able to just do a lot of good for the community. And I've been able to use my platforms to promote autism acceptance and really just shed a new light on something that isn't so scary and something that isn't so petrifying, because autism has such a label of, oh my gosh, it's awful. I remember my mother telling me a story when I was diagnosed with autism of a woman in this like support group that she went to right when I was diagnosed. She said that it was a death sentence. And my mother stood up and she left the class right after she said this statement, but she was furious. But she had to stand up and she said, a death sentence is me 2 years ago walking behind my daughter's casket. I have an older sister named Chelsea who passed away from camptomalic dysplasia 8 days after she was born. And she said, death sentence is me walking behind my daughter's casket. I get to hug my daughter. I get to love my daughter. This is not a death sentence. This is a gift. And then she walked out of the support group and never went back.
Wow.
So I'm just trying as much as I can with my platform to shed a new light onto a topic that has gotten a bad rap, honestly. And it's something that so many people don't know about it, or they think they know about it and they're just completely wrong. So it really goes both ways. And so I've been using my platform for that and just social media influencing, content creation, bringing different ideas that I have in my head onto screen. And so doing that as well.
Congratulations on
Thank
all
you.
of that growth. That's incredible. And the fact that you're using your knowledge and experience to help children is fantastic. And it's really, that's where our world changes, is with them. So I love that so much. And, 22 months is really early, like as the world would think, for a girl to be diagnosed.
Yep.
Tell us what signs your mom or your, family saw that, or doctor, whatever, however that happened, so that we can kind of give a new perspective to what happens with girls. Because I think that it's this new, even in my own friend circle, I wasn't diagnosed till I was 45, heaven's sakes. Yeah. So some of my friends said, no, that's not true. That's crazy, and I was just like, that's so offensive. How could you say that to me? But they don't know. They're just like, it's this cluelessness. And so how do we clue them in? Tell us about the beginning years and show us what that looked like.
Yeah. So for me, when I was born, I would not look when somebody walked in a door. So I was in what my mother refers to as the Britini world. And I only existed in the Britini world. And it was very hard for other people to enter the Britini world. So like somebody would walk in the door and your natural reaction is to turn your head and look who's looking at the door. I didn't do that. I didn't talk until I was 3.5. I didn't make eye contact at all. I had no social cues. The only way that my parents could even get to me in some sort of reaction was either through watching television or listening to music, which is why music is such a large part of my life now. But it was just the non-responsiveness that I showed so early. Like, it was my first birthday and I was sitting there with no emotion, confused, and I didn't really know it was my first birthday. And I just remember my mother told me that she went to school, and her specialty when she went to school, because she has 3 different master's degrees, was a study of children with disabilities. Mm-hmm. She always knew she was going to have a child with disability. She didn't know when, she didn't know how, but she just knew it in her gut. And very early on, 1.5 years, she was like, Brittany has autism. Has to be. Because she's like, she went through all the things and she was like, this just makes sense. My child doesn't look at me. She's not talking. She's behind in every single area at this point. We need to fix this. So then I went to obviously the doctor, and I got tested, repeated, like multiple times. I believe it was multiple different testings. And then at 22 months old was when I was diagnosed with autism. And from that point on, I mean, we have documentation for, obviously, it's like yearly, you get documentation of all of the new things and all that kind of stuff. But then when I was diagnosed at 22 months, that was when Summit Center came into the conversation. And I was the first child in Western New York to receive 40 hours of ABA a week. And if you don't know what ABA is, it's applied behavioral analysis therapy. Has some controversy in the autism world for good reason. I'm not an advocate for ABA for everybody. I'm an advocate for ABA if you need it. And I needed it. I was a onion with the skin fully on, and I was not peeling no matter what happened. ABA was my saving grace. And it was, but I also had the best therapist, the best team, who couldn't have been more positive with me. And obviously that's a topic we can dive into after. But I had such a positive experience with ABA personally. But like I said, I am an advocate for early intervention, not specifically that in terms of like, I don't think everybody needs that. But then again, so we go through the diagnosis process, and it took my mother 9 months to get that 40 hours because they all thought she was crazy. They all thought she was nuts. But I had the best advocate in the world in her. And she sat down every single month, and they were like, oh, we'll give you 5 hours of ABA and 5 hours of speech a week. And my mother walked out of the meeting and said, no, come back the next month. We're going to give you 10. Nope. Walks out. 15. She walks out. Then they finally tell her, we're going to give you 25 hours of ABA and 5 hours a week. And she's about to walk out again. She goes, I'm going to get my lawyer. And they said, Kathy, no, sit down. Kathy, sit down. And they're like, what do you want? And my mother goes, 40, 40, and 5 hours of speech. So I had, for the first 1.5 years of my life, it was in-house. So I had all of my therapy 6 days a week in my home, along with my 5 hours of speech. So it was 45 hours a week collectively. And then when I was 3.5, I moved to half days. So I did half the day here and then half the day at the Summit Center School. And then they came into my pre-K from 4 to 5.
Yeah. We
Crazy
did
journey.
the same with our son. He was on early intervention, and then it was all in home. Actually, we never did any center work. Their centers were out of town from where we lived, and their therapist came in. So that was nice for us. But I completely agree with you about, ABA in the autism world. And if you're not autistic, probably don't even have a clue about what, the controversy we might be talking about. But, over the years, and especially now, we're trying to create better systems. We're getting rid of those old ideas and these old systems. And I kind of I posted something and challenged people's thinking, like, tell me something that still exists but has the same name but has changed so many times over the years. Automobiles, Coca-Cola, there's all of these things. And I'm like, so is ABA. You can't be so angry. Like, it's changing. They're doing better. Don't discard it right away, but do your research. Like, don't be so naive to think that one doctor, one therapist, one anything is going to be the answer, because it's not ever. It's always a collective. And the best thing you can do is start out with a team building mindset. I think that's the best thing. IEPs, anything you're going into, team building is the first thing you should have in your mind.
I mean, that's the whole thing too, is that we built that team very early on. And I had the same I had the same psychologist with me who diagnosed me. Yes. Same psychologist for 16 years. Wow. And that, like, we had a team of people, and that team never stopped. You know what I mean? I saw that individual until I was 18. And then I moved on to a different individual, just because I think her office capped at 18. I think it was what it was. It was just kids. But I don't know the reason why we left. I think that was why, though. I think it literally capped at kids, and I think I was 18. But regardless, we then moved on to another person. But the team is the biggest thing. Yeah. And this team of people that were constructed around me, knowing the reasons why I was diagnosed, knowing my symptoms, they made the choice that ABA was my go-to, and they all made the right choice, because for me, ABA was the most positive way of peeling back the layers of my onion and allowing me to become Britini and allowing me to escape the world that is the Britini world and dive into the real world, which I didn't know existed until I was probably like 6. And so I say that with like a grain of salt, because my maturity was always around 3 years younger than my age was, until I was until I was about 19, 20 was when it's finally started to like almost match up. And then now, I'm a kid at heart. So, you can tell me I'm 25 and I act like a 22-year-old. If you get me in Disney, I act like I'm 5. With like reason. Like, but if you get me in front of like a chocolate covered banana stand, or if I see Mickey Mouse, I'm going to scream. So like, just know that. But the team, I agree with you 100%, Sarah. The team is the biggest thing. And if you don't have that team, it's going to be very, very hard for you to fight as an individual, because unfortunately there are so many individuals who are on the spectrum who are on waiting lists, who are not able to get access to those therapies. And it's not any fault of the parents or the caretakers or anyone. It's literally just the system. And it is so wrong that people are on waiting lists to get therapy. That is the craziest thing in my mind. That is wrong.
Exactly.
But just, I mean, to everyone who's listening to this, if you're one of those people, keep fighting. Do not give up, please, because my mother did not give up. And it took her 9 months. Yeah. 9 whole months of fighting, and then we got somewhere. You know what I mean? So you can't give up. You can't.
Tell us about the relationships you were able to build and how that turned, and kind of how you learned how to start building relationships. Because I think that with my son, I saw that, he has his mom and his dad and his sister, but the relationships he built with a couple of the amazing therapists we had was phenomenal, was life-changing for him. What did that look like and feel like for you when you look back, or kind of maybe what your mom thought of that?
Yeah. Relationships were huge with me. They were the definer of how I was going to make relationships throughout the rest of my life. There are therapists that we still send Christmas cards to. There are therapists that I still call on a monthly basis. Even doing all the work with the Summit Center that I've been able to do in the last year and a half, one of my therapists, Mary Belisle, who was with me since I was 22 months and I was diagnosed, she and I have conversations very regularly. I got to give her a hug when I went to the Summit Center. I hadn't seen her since like before COVID. Oh my God, it was just like she and so many others had such amazing relationships with me because they wanted to see me succeed. And I think that's the biggest thing in a therapist is they have to want to see the result in you. And my therapist wanted that result more than anything in the world. I remember one therapist, Heather, who I had until I was 12, and she would come like 2-3 times a week. I think she was only like told to come twice, but like if we needed her, she was there. Or if we needed an extra body or something, like she was always there. I remember like I was in Girl Scouts and I was a horrible Girl Scout. Like I was not dedicated, but like I was a brownie and I really wanted the patches. And then I never really rode with that pass. I got like all of the patches and then I left. But like she would do all the challenges with us. And like I remember my friends coming over and she'd be the one to like sign the papers when we were like 10. And we'd like check off all the patches as we got them. And then I would come home with 20 new patches. And my mother was like, you did not do all of these things. And Heather would go, yeah, she did. But just relationship building was so key. And I was always like, but also there was an element of coaching through the relationships. And I'm sure that you understand this. In terms of like, to this day, I still coach myself through social situations. That wasn't any different back then, except for I was being coached in how to speak to people and how to conduct a formal conversation that made sense. And so those types of things, I had a lot of help and I had a lot of people give me a lot of grace and patience, which I think is just a thing that you need. But I would say that's the biggest way that I built relationships is through just people being patient with me and being able to make mistakes and screw up a couple times because I have. It happens. But just being able to learn from those things and take people seeing me for me, I guess is the
absolutely. And you mentioned having friends. And I know that a lot of autistics, especially early on in their life, have a really hard time making friends and staying in friend groups and things like that. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, friend making, I will say, has always been a strength of mine. I love having what I call my core. And I love being able to build that core. Sometimes you need to revise that core for different reasons. But I love having that core. And I've been very, very blessed. I've always been able to have really good people in my life. Obviously not everyone stays in your life forever. People have their times when they come and go. But friend building for me was always really huge. I always say, that I didn't talk until I was 3.5, but I've made up for it since then. That's my always line because I literally sometimes never shut up. And I know this about myself because I'll just keep talking and I'm like, Britini, hush. And then we do it. But I've always had an easier time like being comfortable around people who are my age or people that have different interests. And I've just been very thankful to have some great friends coming through the years. And then you go on a show like Big Brother, which is a social experiment, and you don't expect to make any friends because you're playing a cutthroat game. And then you have 60 new family members when you walk out of the door because that's how close we all were, so it's just kind of like a full circle roll around. But friendship making has always been a strength of mine. I love keeping tabs on people. I love offering advice. I love having people listen to me because I know I don't see things the right way sometimes. And that's no fault of my own. It's just I see things one way and I miss some things sometimes. So it's just the black and white thinking that my brain has. I don't know what the gray area. I don't see it. If there is one, not in my brain. But I've been like, the friends that you have though also have to be patient with you. And they have to be able to understand that like it may take you a hot second to like understand something or digest something or just breathe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. And it's so important. It sounds like along the way, you really learned a lot of self-regulation techniques and skills and tools that you implement now. Because if you were to look at the 3-year-old self that was not yet speaking versus today, you would people would probably not believe or not understand that it could be possible, but it is so possible. And it is such a wonderful, inspiring, and hopeful story to be able to share. And I appreciate that so much. How did getting from, the school into a work setting or a workplace, how did those types of things feel? And how did that go? Because I know that that can be really tricky to.
Yeah, I can. And it was
transition.
So I always joke about this. I have a BFA in theater performance, but I'm really, really iffy on like getting constructive criticism back. I've gotten much better at it in my life because in theater, you just have to know that like you're going to be doing things wrong 75% of the time, and then you can work to make them right. Or it just in the world, like, you know what I mean? It's just something you have to get used to. Yeah. My transition into the workplace it was interesting because I was always someone, my first job was when I was 16. I worked in a gift shop. And I always like would pinpoint when my managers would act differently to other people than they would to me. Mm-hmm. And when their tone would change as opposed to me, and how like if I was doing something and I wasn't going quick enough, they'd be like, okay, hurry it up. But then another person could take 2 hours on that thing and they wouldn't say a word. Like I would always compare myself to other workers. And I don't know if that was like something that I've done like, I don't know if that was like, I mean, it definitely was something I did vocally because I definitely talked about it to myself and to others, being my parents. But it was just something that I really realized that like the workplace isn't always going to be fair. Mm-hmm. And I am someone who really likes fairness. So that was difficult for me to just see the differences in how people would react to others. But overall, the workplace for me, like it was a nice distraction. Like if I got in a groove, I would just stay in that groove. But no, definitely, I think my biggest thing in the workplace was just comparing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I still do it, but I don't mean to. It's just like a thought that always crosses my mind of like, oh, I see this person doing this and then you get to do that. And how does that make sense? Or I would say that was that was the hardest part of going in the workplace, was just the comparisons that I would make subconsciously, and then also talk about. Yeah. And process myself. I would say it was kind of twofold.
My husband always says comparison is the killer of joy, Sarah. Don't do it, and I'm like, okay.
Tell you what, it is. And that's why I really just like when I go into work now, I go in and I'm like, and I have to tell myself and remind myself of this sometimes, you're here to do a job. You're going to leave it this time. Peace. And so like I leave work at work and I bring happiness to home. And not saying that my job isn't happy. My job is wonderful and I love my job and it's passion, but I have to separate my work from my life. Yeah. And so that separation, because I was bringing for a time work into life, and then I was like, that can't work. So I have to separate them to be two different things in order for me to understand both.
Isn't that the truth?
Ain't that the truth?
We're always working on those things. I think that I'm an only child, so it's a different story for me than to watch my children be able to have that relationship with one another. And my son's Anna's my daughter's name as well, and DJ is her older brother with two N's.
Two N's, okay, mine's one.
Yeah, and she is like. She was diagnosed at 8 and she is dyslexic. And so we went for dyslexia diagnosis and came home with ADHD and autism diagnosis as well. But we also wanted to make her a cake to join the ranks of autism, the spectrum cake, right?
Yo, I love a good spectrum cake. I've never gotten one. I've never gotten a spectrum cake. Maybe like on my 20th anniversary of being diagnosed, maybe I'll get myself a spectrum cake.
I love
When would that be? That would be next year, April.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, amazing.
Oh my God. That's so crazy. That's so long. I mean, and this is the funny thing too, is like through sharing my diagnosis on a national platform, I've had the opportunity of talking to a lot of people who've been diagnosed later in life. And it's so fascinating to me because I love hearing those stories, because for me, this is all I've literally ever known is this life. Yeah. And I've never known my life not in the scope of my diagnosis, because that's just how I've had to look at life. And it's so interesting to me, like helping people and or listening to people put the pieces together of like, oh my gosh, this is why I do this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's why you do that. Like it makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. But it's so interesting to me because like I said, I just don't have that shared experience. And I was diagnosed earlier than most people were.
Yeah.
And it was because I just had a mother who knew it. And she just knew it right off the bat. We got tested. It was done. Like that was how the cookie crumbled for me. So
Well, with our son, he was 16 months old and he was reading. And I took him to the pediatrician saying, he's reading, he can read. He wasn't speaking yet or making eye contact, but he would trace words. So I was doing a reading program at home with him as a little baby. They're Your Baby Can Read program. And so I was teaching him to read. He was reading. I was so excited. And our doctor was like, no, like you need to have him tested. And I was like, what are you talking about? Oh, so funny. But yeah, now looking back that, thank goodness we went through all of the learning periods and we're able to have such a great perspective to then when he was 8 years old, we went and had his IQ tested and he does have a photographic memory and he uses 99% of his working memory.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
Super, super genius. And he's the smartest person we know in the whole world. He's just the most amazing. Well, I haven't met everyone, but from those I've met, but he's incredible. But it also, when he was 8 and got this, we went and had this done is when I was like, husband, I'm seeing some things here that I recognize on this ADOS test. And I'm wanting to sit you down and talk to you about this now. And so, I brought it to him and he was like, wow, oh my gosh, like light on moment. Everything made sense for him after that because he's very introspective. We're opposites, 100% opposite. And so he is very quiet and, doesn't speak unless like it's the most important thing, then everyone listens and,
wow.
those people.
Oh my gosh, he's a genius, this kid. Wow.
Yeah.
How old is he?
DJ's 13.
Wow.
And he finished high school last year. Yeah.
He finished high school last year.
Correct. He was
Is he in college now?
We haven't, I don't know. I am learning the steps to how to get there. I'm just now learning because this is the funny part is this whole journey, this decade, 12 years now, I've been on this huge autism advocating and all of these things. And just in the last 2 months, I've been introduced to the gifted and profoundly gifted community. And so now I'm like,
wow.
Oh, whoa, what are you people doing over here? What's this I'm hearing, and they're like, Sarah, come to us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So now I'll be able to help him on another level that I didn't really know how to take the steps to do. We're going to take his GED and then we're going to go wherever we decide we want to go and say, do you want to take him? And from what we hear, they'll most likely do it. Not only that, but possibly pay for more therapy so that he could, because cognitively and like behaviorally, like you said, he is years behind where he is academically. In fact, he speaks and he doesn't, this is the great part. You might get this, he speaks 130 languages. However, you can't have a conversation in English with him because that's not the kind of thing he does. He's not a conversationalist. He's just he's an intellect. So it's just this constant intake of information.
Wow.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
This was my journey. And that's why I was like, this is so amazing. I need to learn more about this. And then luckily my husband and daughter fell in. And then I was like, okay, wait a second. Where's my space here? Where do I belong? How do I get you guys so well? Like, how can I understand you and support you and give you all these accommodations? And, I haven't sat in a restaurant with my husband for 20 years. We've been dating, it'll be 19 years this year. We've been together.
You haven't sat in a restaurant?
No, he doesn't go to he won't go to restaurants. He won't eat in front of people.
Wow.
I never knew.
My father.
Yeah, I never knew.
My father will not do takeout.
Oh.
Like it's like the craziest thing. My dad has an aversion to food that's not cooked in it's not even not cooked in front of you. His thing is like, if it's not hot in front of your body, he's like, I don't want it. Like,
Yeah.
we just had Mexican last night. We will never order him takeout Mexican because he's like, it's not going to be hot when I get it. I'm going to have to microwave it. And then it ruins it for me.
Yeah.
And
right.
I'm like, dude, give me the Hawaiian fajitas. Let's go. Corn tortillas, guacamole. I'm like, bring it on in, please.
Funny.
Yeah, I have no aversion to food. I love everything except for what I'm allergic to, obviously.
Oh, and what are that? What do you have food
Gluten and dairy are
allergies?
my two.
Was that something your mom knew right off the bat, or did you guys learn that the hard way?
Oh, we learned it the very hard way. I was told that I was allergic to milk and gluten when I was 22.
What?
So yeah, milk.
I knew it when these guys were 3. I was like,
no, yeah, I was fine all throughout my life with milk and gluten, and then it was when I was in college, my senior year, that I started having like every day I would be curled up in a ball. And like my directors, my teachers, they all knew that I would just be curled up in a ball. And like when my attack was done, I would just like get up and proceed with class. And like they knew like I was valedictorian of my college. They knew that I was not sitting out for no reason. I literally was just like, I was in so much pain, I couldn't move. And they understood it, but like no medical doctor could fix that issue for me. And so we saw 3 different sets of doctors. And then I was on the road after graduation touring with Missoula Children's Theater, and I was hospitalized for the second time for it. And it was on that call that my gynecologist, gastroenterologist, and primary doctor all got on the same phone call. And they said, she's done with gluten. She's done with dairy. We're kicking her off. So then I got tested when I got home from tour, and I'm allergic to gluten through blood and milk through skin.
Wow.
So I technically have an EpiPen for dairy.
Oh my heavens. That's intense too.
I never bring it with me. I really probably should sometimes. Because the attacks are unfortunately just getting worse. I was in a coffee line at Tim Hortons, and they use the same stirrer to stir my almond milk coffee with the whole milk coffee. And I was throwing up all the way home. And I had to leave work. I was in the bathroom. I was at school. I hadn't got placed yet because I'm a sub. And I was in the bathroom just doing normal business. And I was getting so hot. And I was like, oh my God, I'm overheating. I was like, oh, this is going to be terrible. So then I go into my mother's office because she's the school counselor at the school that I work at, which is awesome. And I was sitting in her room, and she goes, you look terrible. And I'm like, yeah. So then my principal comes in, and she's like, Britt, can you make it home? And I said, yes, not knowing that was a no.
Yeah.
And then I was eating rice the entire week. Like my stomach was shot.
Wow.
So it's unfortunately become a bigger issue, but no, that was 22. So this July will be 4 years with those allergies.
Wow. And now, I mean, the world is so much kinder now with gluten and dairy.
Thank God.
So much kinder.
I'm so glad I can have
girl. You know, it was so hard in the beginning for us. It was, 8 years ago, there was no gluten free. I could barely get him to eat bread or anything. And, having to take away something from your child that they've eaten them for the time that they've eaten in their life, and then replace it with things that they don't like. Now he eats like 5 items. And, I hope that someday that will get better, and we'll keep increasing, practicing, and, just trying new things. But it is what it is. And I love what you said at the beginning. You had said that you live such a different lifestyle, and it looks so different. And what people don't know or see about us is that how different we are. My son sleeps on what I call the moon schedule, which is 2 weeks in the night and 2 weeks in the day. Right now he's on his daytime schedule, so he should be going to bed anytime now. He's in his midnight hour right now. And it was really hard the first few years because, melatonin and like I hated having to medicate him for any purposes, because I love to see how he is as his own natural being. And so that was so hard, but he had to have therapy, so he had to be awake during those times. And finally there was a time where I just did enough research and was like, this is like a lunar cycle, and I'm going to start following it and stop fighting it. And when you give in and you ride the flow and you stop fighting against things and you stop chasing this idea that society has to be on this 9 to 5 thing. Oh my gosh, just a relief and success. Like, he's happy. We're all happy. I'm at home. Who cares if he's asleep? Who cares? He's not doing anything. The kid finished high school. Like, he deserves whatever time he wants to sleep.
Yeah.
You know, we don't put a lot of pressure on him.
That's a fact.
So yeah, it's crazy.
He finished it. He can sleep when he wants to sleep.
That's right. That's right. So, you know, and we'll work on whatever he needs in the time that he needs it. We'll follow his lead, and we'll offer things along the way that will help, you know, grow and sustain his skills. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe that it's been, I want to talk to you for 5 more hours.
Yo, legit. No, I'll tell you what though, it's been an interesting thing too, because a question that I get really, really often, Sarah, was I ever medicated? Mm-hmm. And that question, when you brought it up, I just thought about this. I was never medicated, because my mother, to the same degree that you just said, she, like, medication, when I was going through the ranks, I guess I would say, it was like primarily used for school and attentiveness.
Lithium,
like if you didn't
ADHD, right?
Yeah, like if you didn't need it for school, you didn't get it. So I was performing extremely well in school. I was in honors everything. I was in AP almost everything. Some APs I just opted out of because I was like, I'm not taking AP physics. But like some of them I opted out of, but they're like, I would never had an academic issue. So therefore, my parents made the decision of never medicating me at all. And I really feel like for my personality and who I am as an individual, my medication would have severely changed who I was. Mm-hmm. It would have affected my like personality. It would have affected my energy influxes. But I mean, for some people though, it is the answer. And for that, fantastic.
Absolutely.
But it's just like another question of like, if your team decides that that's what is the best course, do it. There's not like a golden rule of like, yes, you should, or no, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
It really goes by a case by case basis.
Absolutely. Oh, I 100% agree with that, because you never want to make a family or anything feel bad for, something that you're saying, oh, I don't advocate for this. It's not even about that. It's an individual choice for every single human. And you just, I think the most that I have learned is how much dignity I need to give every single person. Yep. Not only that, but myself, because sometimes I think that's the hardest. We're the hardest on ourselves, aren't we? Mm-hmm. Sneaky imposter syndrome. Oh my goodness.
No, we really are the hardest on ourselves though, because we expect the most of ourselves. And I always am reminding myself to give myself grace and to give myself time, because I will get everything done that I need to get done. I will do the things I need to do, and I will be okay.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? Like, I will be okay at the end of the day, and it will be just fine. So if I keep reminding myself of that, then I will be just fine.
Yeah, I love it. Love your mindset and your energy, and just getting to connect with you is fantastic, and just made my morning. Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh. Sarah, thank you so much.
Yeah. I hope can we just get on and do a girls chat every once in a while and just be together?
Oh my God, please. No, I would love that so much.
I would too. I would really love that, because I think I just want to learn more about you. I want to tell you more about myself and my family and all of that stuff. And I just, yes, darn it. I wish we had more time. Tell us where we can go to follow you. I know your Instagram and your TikTok are amazing. Do you have anything on Facebook? I'm not sure.
Yes,
I'm the old lady,
I'm just getting on Facebook now. I have been told for a really long time to just like, while you post on Instagram, post it on Facebook. And I did not listen to that until recently. So I definitely, I'm starting to get to that, but my Instagram and my TikTok are the same handle. It's Britini_D'Angelo, spelled like Britini. So it's Britini, and then D'Angelo is exactly how it sounds. YouTube is the same. Starting to get on YouTube a little bit, just with like shorts, but like we're going to start doing longer form content on there. And then my Facebook is just Britini D'Angelo. So.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we'll make sure that we go and support you and watch you on your journey. What's next for Britini? What do we have coming up?
Oh goodness. Well, I turned 26 in less than a month, so I guess that's what's coming up.
What day? I gotta know what day it is. Really? Yeah. I have a wonderful another friend that's June 9th birthday. She's one of my favorite
so many people that are born on June 9th. I swear to God, it is one of the most popular days to have a birthday. When I was going through school, there were 17 of us. throughout my
Wow.
schooling years that I counted between pre-K and graduation that had a birthday on.
What was happening 10 months ago?
You know what? Apparently everybody said June 9th. Let's do it, man. Like that's the day.
Oh.
But no, it's so funny. But no, I have a couple friends of mine who I still keep in contact with who we all have birthdays on the same day. So it's very funny.
I love that.
But no, so 26 is coming up on the horizon.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then I will be competing in the World Championships for karate come July 9th is my competition date.
Wow.
So I compete in that every year. So I'm just training for that really hardcore right now and making sure my forms all look concisely making sense. And then from there, I have obviously next week my sister graduates from law school, so we're going to go celebrate that, and just some trips coming up, a lot to Disney World because we love it. And yeah.
Well, then stop in when you're in Florida. I'll, like I said, I'll be at Hutchinson Island on June 13th through 16th. So come visit. We'd love to have you there. Oh, it was just so great to get to know you, Britini. So great. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of your mom and
me too.
Support you
I'm proud of my mom too.
Yeah. Give her a big hug from another mom and just say, that's fantastic. And I know the hard, it can be so isolating and hard sometimes to be putting up that fight on your own, but it's so worth it. And along the way, you just find this tribe. I saw this post from this lady in an autism group that said, my family, I just got this diagnosis. My family doesn't understand, or is it ever going to be better? And I said, let me tell you this, your family will always be your family, but your autism friends, community, and tribe will be your family forever. Like that's just the truth. And this community that we've found and this like heart space that we have for one another is just the most beautiful place I've ever been. So, and I've never felt so included ever. So yeah, it's fantastic.
I could not agree with that more.
Yay.
And also Sarah, happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I love being a mother. I always knew I would be, and I give it all I have. So yeah.
I love that.
We can do.
I know you do. I know you do.
Yay. Oh, Britini, thank you so much. And I really hope we can stay in touch.
Absolutely. No, this is the start of a beautiful friendship.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Of course.
We'll talk to you.